Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. The summer break is finally over and we are getting back into things with the OWCS. We're going to start by talking about the Asia Pacific rosters today. I'm going to talk about Korea tomorrow and then we'll talk about Japan shortly after. But like I said at the very beginning, we are here to talk about Pacific. 8 teams competing in this region. They are, as you can see here, 99 Divine, Bleed Esports, Teenage Rising, Fade Altier, WJO X Full House, Goon Squad, Cat, and WJO Esports. So, some familiar faces and names if you look around here, but lots of different team names and things as well that you may not recognize. So, I believe only Teenage Rising and Fade Altier are actually like returning roster like groups. I don't think any other team here. A bunch of other ones like acquired other teams. Bleed was DAF before 99 Divine acquired Honeypot's spot. So it's a couple of interesting ones here, but let's jump in. Let's dive in and let's take a look at these teams, talk about them, and what you need to know about all of them. Just going to be a quick kind of go through the rosters a bit and give you my thoughts on who I think will get out of this group. Obviously, 2 teams get out automatically, and then 1 team will get in to the wild card for a chance then to compete in the Asia event. If it happens, we'll see. But starting at the top with 99 Divine, like I mentioned, they are the roster that acquired the slot of Honeypot. So that Honeypot roster, which is the team that won the event last time around, was made up of Nyang, Soggy, Adam, Overshake, Kame, and Light. So now their current roster is Soggy and Color Hex with Kame, R3K as the tank, and then Opener, Light, and Meme Machine as their support. So very different roster. Only a couple of returning people, Soggy, Kame, and I believe Light is the only other one. So very different looking roster. They bring an Opener who's been pretty good over the past couple of years. Played in the Overwatch League. I want to say he was on a roster already recently. Yes, he was on Timeless, and then he was on The Greatest Showman. That's correct. Now I'm remembering. So he's been competing in this kind of Australia region for a little bit, but he also was playing a bit in North America. So he's been around on a couple different teams. So this team has changed quite a bit since they won, but they are still here. You have Bleed Esports, which of course was formerly DAF. They were the team that did the best overall in Asia, outside of the Korean teams. If you recall last event, they were the team that technically finished 5th, I guess, based on who they played and their overall score. They got an invite to the Esports World Cup, the only team from this region to do so. So they're an interesting team. They did make some changes, pretty notably. They still have the same 2 DPS players, though HVS is formerly High Vision, now HVS. Ace was there before. Completely changed their tanks, Sungan and Lumi, who moves from support over to tank. And then they hold on to Pali and add Maka, who I don't believe we've still seen Maka really compete much in any meaningful way. I guess a little bit on Genesis, but we're seeing Maka after he got the freest and easiest Overwatch League ring with the Florida Mayhem. Now he is here on this Bleed Esports roster. So I think these are still the top 2 teams. They should be the 2 favorites to win this group. I think Bleed is probably in a better spot right now. They arguably should have won last time, but did not. So it should be a pretty good run again for both of these two teams. I would imagine they are near the top again, but we shall see. Up next, we have Teenage Rising, and this team has undergone a major change. I don't believe anybody from the former roster is even still here. So this is a brand new team. You have Cartiace, Fuso Fast, and Smile as your damage dealers, Kriz V on tank, Juzo, Savior, and Save Hope as your supports. Savior actually is the only one who is still here. Everyone else is a new player on this roster. They, obviously, not that it really means a whole lot, but they did not win a single game in the Stage 1. They lost to Honeypot and then 3-2-1 Diving, which is the team that finished in third last time around. So not a great run from them. I will say 3-1 Diving, if you're wondering, they kind of in some like meme machines on the team, so he's now on 99 Divine, so you can see that there are some of those players are moving up a little bit. That's also the team that Sungan was on before, who's now on Bleed, so there is a bit of combination of some of those top rosters from the last stage. They are kind of a little bit merging and forming slight super rosters type of thing. That happens a lot in this region. And in most regions, to be fair. If you can't really... If you're the best team on your team and you're the third or fourth best team, and the best or second best team invites you onto your team, you usually leave. It's just... Especially in this format, it's not like North America where you get points based on being with the same team a lot. In this one, it's like, no, you gotta win. And if a better team invites you in, you should join it. But yeah, it's hard to really talk about where this Teenage Rising roster is, considering how different it is from before. I'm just kind of running through some of the other rosters from last stage. I don't believe anybody on this roster other than Savior played at all in the last one. So this is a new team as far as I can tell. So this is it's a hard one to read. Not a lot of players with a ton of history and experience, and that goes for a lot of this region. This is a region that is very much developing, and we'll see what kind of happens there. But it is interesting. I don't know what happened in the open qualifiers. I don't even know what the format was. Let me double check if I can. There's a lot of things with OWCS that I just don't love, and one of them is how confusing some of these things are. I don't know anything about the open qualifiers. I can't even find them on here, so I have no idea what happened with them. Apologies. I'd probably have to go through Wara.gg, and I have not had a good time with that in the past. So I don't know if anyone knows what happened to open qualifiers, but obviously all I know is that 6 of these 8 teams came in through open qualifiers, so they're better than the other teams, but we don't have context in terms of what 99 Divine and Bleed did because they were just better already. Next, we have Fade Altier. This team has a couple of returning pieces. DPS, you have Shake It, High, or HYE, and Exia. Shake It, the only one returning from before. Their tank player is Karen, who is returning. And then their supports, they have MSCG and Maybe, both of whom are returning from before. So this roster is mostly the same. They did okay last time. They lost to DAF. They beat Personate Gaming, and then they lost to RTFM. So they did okay. They weren't great. But they've trimmed a bit of the fat off this roster. They've gone from a 7-person roster to a 6-person roster, so not a ton. They am I just no? That is correct. They just got rid of a support. That's it, and they changed their DPS. So a little bit of a different roster. So presumably they've gone to try to make this team at least a little bit better than it was before. We have some of the same things to go off of from them, so I don't expect them to all of a sudden go from struggling to win some of those games to suddenly being the best team, or suddenly really threatening Bleed or 99 Divine, but they certainly are running it back with a lot of the same pieces. They're building off of their success from before, and they're going to keep on trying to build there. I wish that Asia was better about having more games. Like the Pacific region, it's just like 1 day of games every week, and it's just the bracket, and there's no group stage, there's nothing like that. And so this region really has been very, very, very heavily just it is an afterthought in a lot of ways in the way that they've been running this region. And it's really unfortunate because I want to see these teams get to actually compete at the highest level possible, and we just don't typically see it, and it's frustrating because I think it would be a lot better if these teams actually, got more chance to shine. But it's one of those things where, if you lose 2 games, you're just done. Like, your OWCS is just finished. And that doesn't happen in Japan. It doesn't happen in Korea. They have a lot more time. They have more games. They have more ability to kind of grow and improve throughout the stage. Think about a team like Yeti, now Fnatic, from stage 1 of Asia and Korea, where they were like a pretty good team. They were okay at the beginning. They were holding their own. And look, in Korea, that's saying a lot, because Korea obviously has a ton of really, really, really good players, and it's hard to really kind of stand out. But then they had the time to improve and get better. You don't have that time in the Pacific region, which is very unfortunate, because some of these are the kinds of players who really do need as much. They need the experience to really improve and really kind of try to get closer to the level of Korea. We've already seen that this region, I mean, you think about DAF and Honeypot, this region, Pacific, cleaned shop against Japan pretty dominantly last stage. Like, Japan did not do well in that thing, and they get 3 days of games, right? So Japan gets the ability to grow. This region just doesn't really get it. Obviously, Australia's had a lot of problems. Australia's been essentially tossed aside and turned irrelevant. And a lot of that is happening here, it seems, as well. So it's unfortunate. You want to see this region do better. You want to see this region really kind of become a more full region with a lot more games to it, but we just don't get them, and it's unfortunate. But that's my little tangent there about the Pacific region. Over. Let's take a look now at the WJO Full House roster, because this is a very interesting roster. And I think if there is a team that can challenge our top 2 here, it is this one. They have Speed 75 and Who Are You on the DPS role. Can't go wrong when you have Who Are You on your team. He's a, pretty accomplished player, all things considered. And they have FaZe as their tank, a Korean main tank player, or Korean tank player, mostly an off-tank player. Played for Runaway for years, was on O2 Blast when they were a pretty good team, though he kind of never really was like the starter. But a relatively accomplished player from Korea who comes and joins this roster alongside Who Are You. And then you have Overshake and Ray Momo as your supports. Ray Momo was on the Uyua, I don't know how to pronounce it, esports team that I believe got eliminated from the last one. I don't know I don't remember what happened. There was like a plane or something. I don't remember exactly what happened. And Overshake has been around. That's a name I recognize. I believe he was on the Singapore World Cup team, if memory serves me correctly. So this is a team that's very interesting. This is a team with some good players. Speed 75 competed last time on Far East Society. They were okay. They weren't an amazing team, but they did pretty well. They could have definitely had a better performance, but they managed a decent game against 3-1 Diving, the team that ultimately got third. They beat them, actually. They had a 3-1 match where they lost to Honeypot. They then lost 3-2 to 3-1 Diving. So it was a very good, relatively, tournament for them. So someone who comes from a pretty solid team joining this team now. And I think when you have Who Are You as your damage dealer, and you pair that with FaZe on the tank, I think you have a lot of potential to compete at the highest level. I don't know if this team will be better than 99 Divine or Bleed. Obviously, Bleed has made some changes, but this core has been together for quite a while. And then 99 Divine, though this roster is very, very different, they are a team that clearly has done a lot at the highest levels in the past, and so they're going to build on their success as well. So I think these are my top three. I think they're the teams that I think are most likely to have an impact. And if anyone outside of those three manages to get a good finish, I'd be somewhat shocked. Because to me, they just look like the three best teams based on what we've seen from this region so far and just the talent on these rosters. I'd go with those three. I don't know for sure who I think will win. I'm going to throw my just immediate gut reaction as I'm going to say Bleed probably wins this region, followed by 99 Divine. I think WJO, as good as they have talent-wise, they don't have a lot of depth, and so they are it's the kind of thing where Who Are You is a really, really good player. He's not great on every hero, and that is a potential issue where they can just try to like, if they can just ride his Genji to success, they could win the whole thing, right? Like, if Genji's good enough, they could literally win the entire region with just his Genji because his Genji's that good. It's a matter of how much they can rely on him to play some of his other picks as well, or if they can literally just go, we just need Genji, full stop. We'll see, but it's an interesting roster, and I think they have a chance to do something pretty well in this tournament. Next team is Goon Squad. They have damage players FCB and Hyren, tank Teeny Valkyrie, and support Snooey and Revolver. I will be completely blunt and honest and say I don't know anything about any of these players. I'm not familiar with this team at all. I think they are a team that is purely an open qualifier team that has just kind of come together and done well and made it this far. I don't have a lot of faith in them winning this whole thing. They do have to open up round one against Bleed, so, I mean, good luck, I guess. You're going to want it, I suppose, but, yeah, it's a rough opening game, but I really don't know much about this team. I don't know much about the last couple teams here, but specifically this one. I couldn't tell you a lot about them, but good luck against Bleed, I suppose. Tough opening there. Next roster we have is Cat. They have damage players Kurumi, 87, and Proxies. They have tank Magician and supports Dash and Roos. So, interesting team here. Kurumi was on the World Cup team for Hong Kong. Proxies was on the Indonesian World Cup team. You have Dash, who was on the Taiwanese World Cup team. So a lot of players who played for some of these World Cup teams kind of coming together to form this roster. You bring in as well some Korean players with Roos and Magician. So this is a team that definitely has some names on it, players that have done something in the past couple of years, but not a team that I would put super high on this list either. I just think there is not a lot of really, really, really high-end talent outside of some of these like top three rosters here. I'm curious to see what this team is able to do. I'm not familiar with like Roos, for example. It's a lot of the Korean players that end up competing in this region, unfortunately, are usually not as good. Like, Who Are You being in this region as an opener? It's like, oh wow, like, these are players, and Maka too. Like, those three are like, oh, these are names who have like been at the highest level before. The fact that they've moved down to compete in this region is more just like, hey, we want a chance, we want to win games, and we want to actually be able to compete, and we didn't get a spot on a Korean team, so we're going to find a team that will take us. And so that happens. But a lot of time it's like those kind of like second or third tier, I hate saying it this way, but like second or third tier Korean players who've never really been on some of those big rosters, just trying to compete and trying to kind of be on a team and diversify and be like, I'm not able to compete at the highest level with Korean players. I'm not able to get teams there, but I can try to join some of these mixed rosters, try to make a name for myself there. Maybe that allows me to then become noticeable or recognizable. Maybe that jumps me into some Korean play, or maybe a team in Europe or a team in North America, somewhere where there's a little bit more investment, though North America, calling it, with saying it has investment, kind of funny. Maybe you can get a chance to join one of those teams. Maybe that gets you a chance to compete as well. So that's why you get a lot of those kinds of players here. But Cat, a team that has a couple of Korean imports, but I don't really think this team has a lot of things going forward to be able to compete with that top level. So I'd be shocked to see them do incredibly. Same goes for the team, the final team here, WJO Esports. They have Sunset, Jayco, and Flicky Minaj as their damage dealers. At the very least, Flicky Minaj, best name in OWCS, I will add. I will be rooting for Flicky Minaj as much as I can. We have the tank player Swoo, and then the sports are Before Yadir or Bayadir and Petrichor. So, another team, don't know a lot of these players, don't know a lot about a lot of these players, which is unfortunate. But, like I said, Flicky Minaj, name of the tournament. That is the name, best name. They open up round 1, playing as 99 Divine. They might get totally bopped and totally schmack it around. But it's fine as long as we get to see some Flicky Minaj. Play Flicky Minaj immediately. I want to see Flicky Minaj in as many maps as possible. Play him in every map if you need to. I don't care. Or her. Or them. I actually don't know. I don't know who Flicky Minaj is. I don't know much about Flicky Minaj, but I want to see them play. So, there we go. Those are the teams. I know... I hate to make a video like this where I basically spend a lot of the video going, I actually don't know who any of these players are. But that is ultimately one of the biggest problems with this region, is that there is just so... a lot of the scene is underdeveloped and doesn't have that same reach. And, you know, frankly, like, it not only is it underdeveloped, it is just not as high-performing as Korea or North America, or... which North America's not that great either, but... meh. And like EMEA, those are scenes where those teams do very well. They've competed at the highest levels. They've produced talent that have made it to the Overwatch League, that have played in these OWCS major tournaments, stuff like that. We don't see that often in this region, and when they do, they don't typically perform incredibly well. They typically are, you know, they typically lose games against some of these other really good teams, or some of these teams in the other regions where it's just, this is a region that is not as well developed and hasn't reached the same level of talent as some of these other major regions. And so it's unfortunate to see, like I said before, how little investment it gets in terms of like game time and stream time. Like, these are players who, there is one day a week you can watch these games, and some of these teams you're going to see twice total, and then they're gone. And you're not going to see them again we won't see them again until next year, right? So I hope we get more improvement in this region in the future, but for now, this is what we got. So that's it. Those are your teams. Those are my thoughts on this region. Let me know your thoughts on the Asia region, the Pacific region, specifically in the comments down below. And like I said, tomorrow we're talking Korea. We're talking all about Korea, and we're going to take a look at the rosters there. So that is going to be all for me for today. Thank you all once again. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support does help out a lot with the channel. That's going to be all, though, for me for today. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.